Good morning, afternoon, or evening, people. You might notice a significant change in the quality of my voice. That would be because I finally put a little bit of an investment into my own recordings. My birthday went by recently, and I was like, why the hell not? I'll buy myself a gift of no more than $60, really, and bring you guys a little better quality audio because I knew my old quality was pretty bad. Okay, I had to re-listen to my stuff. I think a lot of people, when they come to my channel and they don't like me, which, if you don't like me, that's fine. You can disagree with what my opinions are. But I think partially it's like, wow, this guy couldn't even bother to get a better microphone for his ranting and raving tirades. Well, now I have one. I don't necessarily remember what model this is, but it was pretty darn cheap at $50, and I think the quality is better. You can tell me if it's better. If you think it's better, if you don't think it's better, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going back to the old recording device, which was essentially just a built-in laptop recorder. So I'll always have it if this thing breaks, which I hope it doesn't, because it cost me some money, obviously. And also, I got a pop filter, and the pop filter was cheap too. Everything combined again wasn't like more than $60. That being said, things I do want you to hear, hopefully coming clearer. Things that I didn't want you to hear, such as me ever coughing or sniffling if I'm sick or something, you may hear more clearly. I will try my hardest to actually go through the effort of cutting abrasive noises out of these recordings now that this microphone can pick up things more clearly. But I just ran through a couple tests, and it is late here, so people are sleeping, and I will just say that if my recording could pick up some of the sleeping noises going on, you'd realize, I record these at very inopportune times, is what I'm trying to say. But I ran through the recording, and you're not hearing anything necessarily, so hopefully everything works out. 2 minutes in, nearly 3 minutes, let's actually talk about what I'm going to talk about. With my new microphone. Quickly, before anyone asks, I might redo some old videos now that I have a better recorder. It depends on what you guys think. If you think I should redo my old stuff just because I have a new recorder, and honestly, maybe I'll have a more sturdy, steady grasp of what I'm trying to say on those old subjects, then I will consider it. If you think I should leave those up and just kind of recognize my old work as opposed to what's going to be my new work, you tell me that too. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, I know it's been weeks, school started up again, college, and it is rough this quarter. I'm just going to say that. So I have not had the time nor the freedom to make more recordings as I would have liked, but I am still thinking about it. In fact, I have another recording coming up on the Timpire channel with Bane about the new Battlefront 3. He's played the live beta or whatever it's called, and he has very big, strong opinions about the game. But whatever. It is what it is. That'll come out eventually, if you even bother to go to the Timpire channel. If you don't worry about it. Just a separate video with me and another guy. Hi Bane, by the way. So I made a couple weeks ago a video basically called My Prequel Experience with episode 1. Basically just kind of explained when I first saw it, how I first saw it, and then kind of my opinions on aspects of the movie that most people have strong opinions on. So I will now begin part 2. And another reason why I haven't made a lot of videos recently is because I kind of knew I was going to get a new microphone eventually, so I didn't really want to put time and effort into recording more bad recordings when I could just wait for this microphone to show up and make good recordings. So Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Once again, I didn't see it in the movie theater. Not because I didn't know it was coming out, but more because no one would take me. Big Star Wars fan already at that point. I had already seen 5, 6, 1. Um, I don't know why for the longest time I didn't see 4. I just couldn't get a hold of it or something. I knew it was out there, kind of figured what the plot was, you know, whatever. And then, eventually I saw it and I was like, okay, now episode 5 makes a lot more sense. And 6, frankly. Okay, but how did I see it? I think I got it as a present, like Christmas or birthday. Somebody knew I was a Star Wars fan. They're like, hey, look, the new movie came out on VHS. VHSs. I miss those. No, well, miss is in a nostalgic sense, not in a you're a pain in the ass kind of sense. So I watched it, and once again, I did not notice some of the glaring issues the movie has. I enjoyed it for what it was, a little kid. Once again, episodes 1, 2, 3, if you see them as a little kid, you're honestly just not going to give a shit about the supposed and fair issues of the movie. Kind of like me. I did not notice bad acting. I did not notice bad CGI. I did not notice any of it. I just wanted to see the amazingness of Star Wars before my eyes. The aliens, the battles, because I was really into battles at the time. I wanted to see lightsaber fights. When it came to the scenes with Anakin and Padme and the romance, I do admit, as a little kid, I tuned it out because you as a kid, you kind of know what romance is, but you're just like, I don't know why people do this. I don't care. Oddly enough, that carried over until my adulthood. But anyway, but as I got older and watched the movie again, then I started to go, okay, now I get the point of this. I understand. And you know what? As a little kid, I had trouble connecting Anakin to little Anakin from episode 1 to adult Anakin in episode 2. I was just like, who's this guy? I don't know who he is. God, I was so dense. But anyway, so that being said, I saw it sometime on my own. I think I watched my movie, and my sister had just gotten a VHS of the Spider-Man movie, the first one with Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. So we watched that. Then we watched Star Wars. She was not that interested in Star Wars, but I still got to watch it that day because it was kind of like, here, you both got new movies. Watch your new movies. By the way, that movie is good too. But I will state here that among the prequels, of which I am a fan of all 3, and I like all 3, in fact, I love all 6 good Star Wars movies. I find them all good. I find episode 2 to be the most, the least favorite of mine. I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. I don't think it's boring. But just among episodes 1, 2, and 3, for me, number 2 is probably my least favorite. I don't have a clear reason why. I was thinking about it for a while now, last couple of days, and I'm like, okay, why is it that I do not like episode 2 above episodes 1 or episodes 3, episode 3 being my favorite, episode 1 being second, and then 2 being number 3 on my scale of the prequels, not putting all the other movies together. As I was thinking about it, I was trying to think, okay, is the romance part the part that really drives me bonkers? And I have talked to people, and they have told me that yes, it is really hard to watch Padme and Anakin / Natalie Portman, Hayden Christensen try to build this chemistry while being poorly directed by George Lucas. Given free reign and maybe a little more good direction on their parts, I think they could have pulled it off. But that being said, I understand that yes, the romance does seem kind of stilted, a little awkward, and forced, in the sense that you believe the characters perhaps could be in that situation where they end up, getting together. But the actors are not really having good enough a direction to go, okay, what am I supposed to... Because you get the sense that, okay, everyone knows Natalie Portman can act. Everyone knows Hayden Christensen can act despite some of the odd movie choices he's made, okay? Look at some of his older movies, some of his other movies from Canada, because he's a mostly Canadian actor. He can freaking act, okay? He's made some questionable movie choices. Although I'm sure he doesn't he doesn't hate the fact that he chose Anakin Skywalker, since he's getting dividends every time someone just uses his likeness for the character. That being said, I think what's happening in regards to the romance and the stiltedness, the awkwardness, is that you get the sense that, it's like, okay, I know this character, Anakin or Hayden to Natalie and to Padme, / it's like, I know this character, they haven't seen each other in a while, there's physical attraction on his part, maybe some emotional attachment that hasn't been taken care of since they first met. I don't see how we suddenly get this connection here, and I feel like the actors, if they were given more of a clear reason as to why these two characters were ending up together, they would have given a better performance. But I think they were a little confused, frankly, as to how it went from, hey, we haven't seen each other for 10 years or something, now we're in love. It was a little fast, it was a little quick, it was a little dirty. I mean, you can't really fit that much romance into a Star Wars film because it's a Star Wars film. Even the romance, quote unquote, of Han and Leia just kind of fell into the lap. I mean, it wasn't really something that took precedence over everything else. But even that is not really why I find the movie to be the lowest on my prequel fandom. And I love the battle scenes, even though you can, at some point in your life, you start looking at older movies that have heavy amounts of CGI, and you just go, I never noticed that before. And you're sitting there realizing, man, that background is not aging well, and that happens 2 or 3 times in a movie, and it just makes me sad, because it's like, oh, the action is gone for me. Not the action, the magic. The magic is lost because you look too hard at something and you realize it's not really there. That's when it hurts. If you can let something slide, if it's in the background, or if you can buy the CGI well enough, then it doesn't really bother you. Most of episode 3, I can buy it very well. Most of episode 1, I can buy very well. Yes, I do notice 2 or 3 scenes that are pretty bad. But episode 2, there are a few more scenes than most. Maybe that knocks it down some. But even then, I can look past that. Really, it's not that big of a deal. And I think the conclusion I've come to why episode 2 was so hard for me to get as into as I can get into to episode 1 and 3, which I do often. Yes, I still watch those films. I still watch episode 2 from time to time. I think what it is simply that the movie feels meandering. And I don't mean that in a necessarily oh my god, this movie is so confused, and some people I'm sure say that and feel that way about the film. But for me, it's kind of alright, political attempted assassination. Got it. Alright, burgeoning romance from a horny teenager. Got it. Alright, another assassination attempt. Got it. Palpatine's a dickhead. Got it. Send them to Naboo. You chase after Jango. Obi-Wan. You go to Naboo, Anakin. Okay. Oh, Anakin's having dreams about his mom. Okay. Well, that was established earlier. Okay, let's go to Tatooine because he's had another dream. Okay, Obi-Wan, you go to Kamino and you do this. Okay, Obi-Wan, you chase Jango, get into the fucking ship and go after him. Alright, get into a space fight over Geonosis and make Jango think you're dead. Seismic charges. Cool, whatever. Alright, Anakin, you're gonna find out your mom got killed by a bunch of Tuskens. Kill the whole camp. Off screen. Alright, let's talk to Yoda for a minute. Alright, done with that scene. Alright, let's go back to Obi-Wan. Oh, Obi-Wan, you're spying. Oh, now you're sending a message. Oh, now you got caught, jackass. Let's go to Anakin being angsty. Let's go to Anakin being angsty with Padme. Let's have Anakin receive a call from Obi-Wan. Let's have it relayed to the council. Bada bada bada. Hey, guess what? We went to Geonosis. Oh shit, we got caught. Now we're in the arena. And the arena is only the part for me where things kind of stop being meandering, where it's okay, in the arena, follow this scene, follow this scene, follow this scene, and you have a direct line from arena battle to arena battle where the Jedi show up. Then the actual war begins. And then the fight between Obi-Wan, Anakin, Dooku, Yoda later. And then, I mean, that's it. That's the end of the movie. To be fair, if you are much more critical on the film, about the film, you could say that that is a major deterrent for why you would ever want to watch this film. For me, it hurts the film, but it doesn't really just destroy it for me. But yes, it does feel a little like, what is going on here? It feels a little like, okay, we have two stories. I get that they're going side by side along one another, but it's like, and I understand the problem. It's that George Lucas wanted to shove so much into this movie because it's like, alright, I got a lot of stuff I need to get out before this movie is over with. And frankly, it's like not taking these new freaking movies into account. I think what the prequels could have gotten help from was a little bit, like maybe more explanations. We get, or a little more in-depth analysis within the movies of what's going on, how things are progressing. It feels like so much is just rushed because George is like, I need to set up for the last film all this shit, so Anakin becomes Darth Vader, Padme dies, twins are born, that I need to get them together, get the war started, get a bunch of Jedi killed, get the clones out, get the droids ready. It's just so much he has to jam pack in there, and then of course it's like, alright, we're gonna go to the third movie, and then we'll fill the gap with comics, books, cartoons, whatever. And that works, but episode 1 didn't really suffer from shoving too much in there, because episode 1 was just the foundation, and it wasn't like building necessarily off episodes 4, 5, and 6, except for some lore where it's like, okay, some things are going to happen maybe within this film that kind of explain how episode 2 comes about. And then you get to episode 2 and it's building off of the foundation, so now it has to rush out a bunch of shit so that it can get to episode 3, which is leading up all the way to episodes 4, 5, and 6, so it has a lot more it needs to jam pack in there, because episode 3 is the transference movie in which everything that happens in 4, 5, and 6 has to come from, which is episode 3. So episode 2 has to lead in episode 3 and give episode 3 a purpose as to why 4, 5, and 6 begins and ends. So it's like episode 2 is really like the filler movie, and not, again, for other people it would be a bad thing. For me it's just kind of like, yeah, I understand this is the filler movie. This is where a bunch of information is dumped, where a bunch of stuff has to happen. Weeks seem to go by, although it seems like a day or 2 days or whatever. Again, weird timing. Okay, that being said, I'll mention a couple of things about the film. I'm going to try and make this one a little shorter than the last video, but, that never seems to work out for me. What are several things people always complain about the movie? Okay. Once again, I'm not even going to really talk too much about the actors in the film, because it'd be kind of like a rehash of episode 1, except you have a couple of new people. Hayden Christensen as Anakin. I like Hayden Christensen as Anakin. Good lord, if he had been given better direction, I think he would have been an amazing Anakin, but again, he was not given great freaking direction by George. I still like George Lucas. I think he could have done a much better job with the prequels. I'm not denying that. I like him. I respect the fact that he was allowed to do whatever the frick he wants with his own made-up universe. It's like, I keep wanting to make an analogy for this, but it seems like I have to tell people, not necessarily the people listening to me right now, but I have to tell people, what if you wrote a book or made a movie about a universe born most entirely in your head, and you wanted to put down this story you had in your head onto paper, onto film, whatever, and everyone liked it, but then when you wanted to tell how the story came about, again, born within your head before anyone else actually got a hold of it, and they told you, oh, you should have done it this way, you should have done it that way, your way is stupid, your way is bad, you're essentially telling to that person, oh, half of your idea was good, the other half was bullshit, now I'm going to say you and your whole universe basically sucks. I know they don't say the whole universe sucks because of 4, 5, and 6, but they're discounting a massive chunk of his his ideas, of his thoughts, of his imagination, just because it didn't pan out the way they wanted it. And by they, I mean original trilogy fanboys. So I understand that. Okay, so Hayden Christensen as an actor, I like him. I like him as a person. I like him as an actor. I think he's a nice guy in real life. I think he's a good actor, given good direction. And I think he could have been a good Anakin, a better Anakin. I think he did fine. I think he could have been a better Anakin if given more direction. I'm a freaking broken record. Ewan McGregor, great. Samuel L. Jackson for what he was doing, great. Natalie Portman. Again, better direction was needed because we all know Natalie Portman can act. So, episode 1, she was very stilted and monotone. I accepted that as her being, like, aristocratic, so she had to act a little, put offish and whatnot. Except when she was acting as a, just a handmaiden on Tatooine, and then she was a little more moody. But, anyway. The guy who does Palpatine, he wasn't in it that much, but, he did fine. Everyone loves Palpatine's actor, Ian McDiarmid. Yeah, McDiarmid. And then you got, like, Christopher Lee for, like, maybe 10 minutes, and he has only, like, a couple lines. I loved Christopher Lee. May he rest in peace. God. I mean, the man goes to his grave basically being able to say, I was in both Lord of the Rings and in Star Wars, and I can't really think of anyone else who can say that. Yeah, that's great. The guy is amazing. The guy can act. The guy's awesome. I just wish Count Dooku had been given more lines. I wish he was given a bigger intro into who the fuck he was, because it's just kind of like, hey, Count Dooku, he was an ex-Jedi. Now he's not Jedi anymore. Now he's just kind of an asshole, and people think he's behind all sorts of shit. And it's like, okay, who is he? We get him. Oh, Christopher Lee. Now you're evil. Okay, that anyone who didn't see that one coming is kind of stupid, but I'm kidding. If you didn't see that coming, my apologies. So, yeah, my problem with Christopher Lee is that he wasn't given enough things to do, things to say, whatever, man. But for what he is, he's cool, and it seems like most people like Count Dooku as a Sith anyways, and I always saw Count Dooku as kind of being the interim Sith Lord, kind of like, he's alright. I'm talking about Dooku himself, not Christopher Lee. Dooku to me always seemed kind of like, okay, if you say he's cool, I guess he's cool. And what else? Yeah, I mean, not really that many new well, there's the Jango guy, okay. The guy who does Jango, who does basically all the voices of the clones from then on out, did a fine job. I do not like the kid who played Boba Fett, and even then, I think the kid who played Boba Fett did fine. The only thing is just that when that stupid, god-awful laughing scene when he was in Slave 1, when Jango was like, oh, here, I'm gonna throw some fucking seismic charges out the Slave 1 and blow Obi-Wan up. The kid's laugh it sticks in my mind as, that's forced and bad. But that was the only time I ever felt that way. Unless it was a romance scene between Anakin and Padme that I was just kind of like, oh god, this is stilted and awkward. Oh god, I wish the characters had... Again, I believe in the romance of Anakin and Padme, despite my real life feelings on romance. I just think the actors were not given a good enough ability to show it, or whatever. I believe the characters could have, should have, and did end up together. I mean, did, because it happened. I just am sad that really the movies kind of portray it a little awkwardly and make it almost seem kind of like weird. I don't know exactly how to say it, but the romance in the movie seems weird, even though all the book material, all the cartoon material, everything, all the other material just kind of goes to show, okay, no, they actually do love one another. That's great. You got a lot of like emotion from the old Clone Wars cartoon, the one that was made by the same people who made Samurai Jack. Like you got pretty clear idea on how they felt about one another in those cartoons. I wish that translated better over to the movies, but whatever. So again, I found the acting to be fine. Again, stilted here, awkward there. Oh, George, why did you do that there? So yeah, CGI. Now, like I said, episode 2 for some reason stands out more clearly in my head as a movie that has some awkward CGI scenes that as you get older you go, oh, it's not aging well at all. But most of that seems to happen on either Geonosis or Coruscant. Naboo I didn't have a problem with as much. Camino didn't have a problem with as much. Tatooine, if you can't get Tatooine right, then I don't know what's wrong with you. Just find a desert somewhere. But no, Tatooine was fine. It was only Geonosis and Coruscant, and it's understandable. Because really, when you're making a movie like these, back in the early 2000s, late 90s for episode 1, the CGI was getting good, but it isn't where it is today. And episode 3 kind of was like the transition period in my mind, where it's like, okay, no, CGI is starting to get to a point where it's a little more better integrated. But even taking that into account, Lord of the Rings would not have been as good as it was CGI-wise if it wasn't for the fact that LucasArts and Lucas went to Peter Jackson and were like, hey, if you ever want to come up to the ranch, Skywalker Ranch, and look at how our new CGI making techniques can help you get you these scenes you want to do onto your films, come by and look. And Peter Jackson and company did go to the Skywalker Ranch. It's on one of the damn makings of Lord of the Rings videos if you want to find it. They went to Skywalker Ranch, and basically they learned all these new techniques, and they even learned how to make some new programs that would help them make little CGI men in like some of the battlefield scenes actually like have a mind of their own, go around and slashing other enemies. So, I'm saying tangentially Star Wars helped Lord of the Rings in that regard, but CGI still not like, okay, you look at a CGI film today. Let's look at one. Let's look at something simple CG. Oh, simple in quotes, because I mean it takes a lot of computer power just to make it. The new Godzilla film. They did a really good job in that Godzilla film. You believed a lot of that shit was happening, or at least I did. I mean, I don't know about people who didn't like the film. Excuse me. But back in those days, it was kind of like, well, we got good CGI, but you're probably going to see what is there and what isn't there. The new Star Trek film for J.J. Abrams can go fuck himself. For the most part, you'd be like, oh, that scene looks good enough for me to, for the most part, buy that's something happening somewhere in space, maybe. Not Lord of the Rings, Star Wars Episode 2, you're kind of like, that's a film, that's a movie. But, even then, it doesn't bother me. It's like, okay, I know some people want to go to a film, be it highly CGI filled or not, and believe that they are somehow part of this universe and they want to get really engrossed in it. And I understand that. For me, I'm always aware I'm watching a movie, whether it be a good movie, an amazing movie, a good set of a good TV show, a good set of movies, whatever. I don't ever engross myself so deeply as to think that somehow I'm a part of it or that I am tangentially involved in this story. I'm always like, no, I'm watching something that's going to entertain me for a while and then afterwards be done with it. So I don't necessarily look at a bad CGI film, although I mean unless it's like an asylum film, I don't necessarily look at a bad CGI film and go, oh god, now I can't be as engrossed in it. No, I just kind of go, well, that could have been done better. Let's move on. Like even a good TV show that a lot of people like. Although to be fair, one of the reasons that people might like those shows is because of all the freaking TNA in it. But that Spartacus show that was made a couple years ago, and most people seem to love. Good God, some of the CGI scenes in that TV show need to go die in a fire. But people love the TV show, despite that. Admittedly, because of good acting and storytelling and whatnot. But I'm just saying, CGI does not make and break a movie. It all depends on the application and interpretation and what level of integration for yourself you want to put into the movie. For me, I do not put that much of application, integration, whatever, into my films. I can watch a Lord of the Rings film, like I said, and see, ooh, that's not aging very well. That one scene, although for the most part, their scenes are aging fairly well. There are some scenes, even in those amazing movies, that you can go, that is not doing so well today, Peter. 2002, I can see how that was amazing, but not really today. Sorry. But still love those films and Star Wars. So I get why for some people the CGI could make or break a film. For me, it doesn't really make or break a film. So I know there are some glaring CGI issues in episode 2, as are in episode 1. But again, I remove myself enough as to not really care about them. I know they're there. They are a valid reason to have a problem with the film. Just like the acting. They are valid reasons. I'm not saying you can't not like the film just because of this reason or that reason. You can not like a movie for any freaking reason. That is a great thing about freedom and free will. You're allowed to like or dislike whatever you want. But as it comes to me, in my opinion, as to answering some people who go, you're not allowed to like the prequels because they just are bad movies. Well, that is your opinion. My opinion is that they are flawed films that I take great enjoyment in and still build a foundation for the great lore of Star Wars upon. That being said, CGI is okay. Needs some improvement, but it's okay. What else? I talk about actors, I talk about CGI. I guess I could talk about the story a little bit. I'm not going to do a whole run of the review of the film's story or run of, this happened and that happened. Once again, I found the politics of Star Wars to be interesting. I know for some reason most people, especially in episode 1, did not find the politics interesting. I've always been interested in politics in general. I don't know if maybe that had something to do with it, where I was just kind of like, oh, okay. To be fair, when I was a little kid and I first saw this film, I didn't really care much for the politics. I was kind of like, oh, good guys, bad guys. Bad guy pretending to be a good guy. Got it for Palpatine. But as I got older, I found the politics to be interesting. I didn't much find reason to dislike the movie over the political aspect of it. You had to figure at some point, out what the Clone Wars were, since they were such an integral part of why episode 4, 5, and 6 were happening. Considering, hey, Darth Vader / Anakin was a Jedi during this war. Oh, the war ended and he became a jackass. How did that happen? Well, you have to figure out that the war was a horrendous event in the galactic history. Now that you're not taking Legends into account as canon for Star Wars, the Clone Wars are, or maybe were, considering the new films, but whatever, were or was the most costly, life-taking, bloody war in galactic history. If you're not taking Legends into account because of the Yuuzhan Vong, fuck the Yuuzhan Vong, I don't care. Even then, the Clone Wars are by canon. Even in Legends, if you don't take Yuuzhan Vong War into account, and now in the new canon, the worst war in galactic history. So you had to at some point figure out, okay, how did it get started? So George Lucas took a little bit of American Civil War stuff and put it in there and said, hey, separatism because of corruption and too much government control and all that good stuff. And really, there's a Sith Lord behind everything. Count Dooku, yeah, woo! It's just corporate greed. Yeah, I can't forget about that. Corporate greed and whatnot. Corporations rising up and funding an entire separatist movement. I found that cool. Whatever. If you didn't, that's fine. That's just my opinion. I didn't find the politics bad. I didn't find the Jedi stuff bad either. The obvious politicalization of the Jedi. Again, we're following the pattern of, oh, the Jedi are becoming more and more political. That is the problem with the Jedi. George Lucas is not trying to show you the Jedi Order as it should be. He's not trying to show you the Jedi Order as it has to be. He's showing you the Jedi Order as it shouldn't be. That is the point of episode 1, 2, and 3. I'm not trying to preach to you, but some people are like, oh, the Jedi are such heartless assholes who don't deserve anything. Well, why? Well, it's because in episodes 1, 2, and 3, they're shown to be such tight upper-lipped, puckered asshole motherfuckers. It's like, yeah, even on good days, they probably are, because, I mean, they're monk warriors who are supposed to be, for the most part, emotionless. However, George is trying to show you the Jedi Order is not supposed to be this way. It's not supposed to be this political entity. It's not supposed to be as involved in politics. It's supposed to be a little more, what's the word? What is the word? I can't think of words when I want to say them. Fair. If the Jedi Order was really how they should have been, how they should be, they would have gone to both the Separatists and to the Senate and tried to figure out which side was in the right, which side had the more obvious, clear, and righteous grievance against the other, and not just choose the Republic because the Republic has to be the right choice. The Jedi are supposed to be protectors of the peace. They're supposed to be, I don't know how to explain it more than that. The Jedi are not supposed to be as they were. That's all I'm trying to say. And I found that very interesting, especially as I got older. As I was young, I was kind of like, okay, I mean, I kind of get what they're trying to do here. Not really that interesting to me. As I got older, it got more interesting. Whatever. I found it interesting. You probably didn't. People who don't like the films. But I found it interesting. Again, get back to the romance. Even for a guy who finds romance to be a fallacy, who finds love in real life to be a fallacy, not taking fictional universes into account, I think it can exist within the fictional minds of people. The romance/love aspect of the two characters I found to be interesting, because I'm like, okay, I can see them being together, I guess. I wish it had been shown better. I wish they had a more clear point A to point B and not just point A, point D. How did that get that? How what? But I mean, fuck, they were around one another for like 2-3 weeks, and suddenly they were madly in love. Again, love story doesn't always make sense. Doesn't have to. It's a freaking love story, and it is space opera. Okay, show me an opera where someone is saying something subtle, and I will show you a flying pig. That is what Star Wars has been described as, a space opera. You go to the opera not because you want to be told a subtle story. You go to the opera because you want something bombastic in your face. And if Star Wars is anything, it is bombastic. So I believe that they succeeded in that regard. Personally, I find that to be true. You go to an opera and someone goes, "My love has left me," or something like that. And it's like, no shit. We just saw the scene where that happened, and to me, Star Wars has always been like that, where it's like, okay, you speak more how you feel, you speak more what you want than what you should show, and that's because I think it's taking a little too much cues from, like, the dramatic school of acting of, I will pronounce to you why I am the way I am, how I feel that way, and blah, 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 blah. And it's interesting, for the most part, when you ask people who don't like the prequel, but can at least appreciate things about them, they think, like, especially scenes where things aren't so loud and bombastic, where things are quiet and pensive, and you can tell the character is thinking or whatnot. Like episode 3, Anakin in the Jedi Council room, and that whole weird, creepy, oddly creepy scene where Padme's looking out her window, Anakin's looking out his. They're obviously meant to be looking at one another from way afar. You get that creepy atmospheric music in the background, and they're not saying anything. They're just thinking, which that is a great scene in Episode 3. One of the best, if not the best, one of the best, not taking the fight into account. That is a very emotion-driven kind of atmospheric scene that I think a lot of people were hoping to get with the prequels, but instead they got this loud, bombastic space opera that did not, for some reason, sit well with them, whereas episodes 4, 5, and 6, which also are a space opera, did. I don't know why. It just, people's opinions change and are different from one another. But, that's just a small tirade into that whole thing. I'm coming up close on the first video's time. God dang it. Look, I'm going to try and cut myself short here. I found the romance to be stilted, awkward, jarring. I believe the characters actually should end up together. I believe the characters are fine together. It was just not produced and made in such a way that was very believable. I believe it more once I read stuff, once I looked at other stuff, like, comics, books, cartoons. I believed it more then, and then I could translate that over to the movies, and that helped me go, okay, yes, I know these characters, they should be together, I'm fine with it, whatever. To me, it worked. I liked it. No, not the actual not the actual progression and show of the romance in the movies. I meant the romance in general. Okay. The Obi-Wan story, I found that to be mostly enjoyable. The stuff where, he's kind of like he's the discoverer of the movie, where he's like, alright, I found out who Jango Fett is, or I found out where he's going, let's go to Kamino. Alright, I found Kamino, now I'm going to find a clone army. I found the clone army! I'm going to find Jango again, I'm going to arrest him. Oh shit, there's Jango and he's shooting at me. Well, he got away, but I put a tracker on his ship. Hey, I found Jango over Geonosis. Hey, I found Geonosis. Hey, I found a giant army on Geonosis. Hey, I found a secret council of evil people on Geonosis. He's the discoverer of the movie. He's like, I found something near. Okay, what have you found today, Obi-Wan? I found a droid army. Good for you, Obi-Wan. But it was fun watching him go from one to the other, because Ewan McGregor can act. Don't tell me he can't, and don't tell me you didn't like Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. Everyone loves Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. Anyone who doesn't, go away. Be gone from me. I enjoyed him. He's a great actor. He's funny in a lot of the scenes he's in, actually. And you get that this is a guy who's like, I really don't want to be doing this, but I got to. I don't mean like he doesn't enjoy being a Jedi and enjoy trying to help people. I mean like in scenes like when he's flying in the ship and chasing after Jango, he doesn't really want to be there. So yeah, I enjoyed Obi-Wan all the way through the film. Except like maybe the parts where he's being just like overly aggressive on Anakin just to do right. You can tell that's in there because the story requires Obi-Wan to be a little more hard on Anakin than what you think maybe he should be. But even then, he was, in all reality, not being that difficult. He was just kind of like, control yourself, But it just felt at points where it's like, Obi-Wan, cool your shit a little bit. But for the most part, it's fine. What else is there to say, really? Well, just to touch on the CIS, again, people obviously disagree with me on this one. I got a very angry message comment in my last video recording that droids are pieces of shit and don't deserve, to even be recognized as Star Wars creations. I, on the other hand, find droids to be far more enjoyable than stormtroopers ever were and ever will be, no matter how much you try to turn them into the neo-Nazis of Star Wars. Abrams. I saw more Jedi die to droids than I saw one die to a whole legion of stormtroopers, okay? That alone makes droids a little more usable and a little more advantageous to use, in my opinion. That's just me, though, I guess. I like the whole... I I like the droids. I mean, there's not really much to say. I guess the CIS formation, I found it interesting that it was a bunch of basically corporations coming together. The banking clans, or the banking clan, the Techno Union Guild. Is it Guild or just Techno Union? I think it's Techno Union Guild. I could be wrong. Correct me. Trade Federation, obviously with Newt Gunray coming back up again. That caricature of that caricature of a character is just funny. Count Dooku forming it. To me, until I actually started to read about like other things, Clone Wars, the newer cartoon, well, newer, it's over now, but what the Clone Wars cartoon show was basically showing the CIS as like having its own Senate, basically. I always figured the CIS was kind of like this technocratic kind of corporate dictatorship, with Count Dooku as the head, this council of essentially CEOs leading this galactic government. But apparently not. Apparently it actually had some sort of reformed Republican kind of foundation. But whatever. Its founding within Episode 2 I found interesting. I like the droids. The battle scene in the arena is great to me, even if some people don't like it. I don't necessarily understand why people don't like it. I don't understand. The people who I know who don't like it have never really explained to me whether they don't like the initial battle between Anakin, Obi-Wan, Padme against the Nexu, Reek, and Acklay, or if they don't like the Jedi all showing up, getting into this large battle with droids, and being severely cut down. I mean, Mace Windu took 200 or something Jedi with him, and by the time they left Geonosis, only had like 10 left. That battle scene is one of the reasons why the Jedi get pretty boned during the war, is because, and I'm not blaming Mace Windu, he's a fictional character, but I'm not blaming Mace Windu necessarily for that action, but a lot of Masters were part of that contingent that went with him, and a lot of Masters died, leading to a lot of orphaned Padawans, a lot of Masters a lot of deficient Masters for a bunch of Jedi Knights and apprentices who needed someone to teach them, and you had Knights being turned into Masters overnight, Padawans and apprentices being turned into Knights overnight, because a war has just started and we have lost a lot of our frickin' Masters. So I saw how that arena battle was very pivotal to the overall downfall of the Jedi Order. Not until I was a little bit older, but even then, as a kid, I was like, that's a lot of Jedi dying. I can't believe it. I was like, a lot of people with lightsabers are dying. To me as a little kid, I was like, how is that possible? How are people with lightsabers dying so easily? Despite the fact that I'd seen episode 1 already. To me, a person with a lightsaber automatically meant they can't die unless another person with a lightsaber kills them. Not true. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the obviously overblown freaking battle scene. Just pure war. I love war scenes. I mean, it's just primal thing with me. Like, oh, bunch of people killing one another, even though half the battle is droids, so it doesn't really count. But our clones are that much better. I'm pissing off a lot of people when I do that. I don't care. I don't like clones. I'm a terrible person. I enjoyed the battle scene. I enjoyed the duel between Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Count Dooku. I enjoyed the film. It's just, for some reason, and I have explained it a little bit, I didn't find it as enjoyable as episodes 1 and 3. I still enjoy the film, so, it's not that big of a deal to me. I'm sure it's a big deal to somebody. So, yeah, I mean, again, if I was given a choice, if someone said, hey, do you want to watch episodes 1 or 2? I'd say, alright, I'll watch episode 1. Do you want to watch episode 2 or 3? Alright, I'll watch episode 3. 2 or 4? I know people are going to hate on me, but God, I find episode 4 to be so boring. I don't know why. I know episode 4 is a pivotal film because it's like, it came out and Star Wars was suddenly popular. It's because that film did so well. I understand that, but man, there's just something about that film, episode 4, where I'm just like, I can't get that into it. Like, okay, anything dealing with Darth Vader and Tarkin and all that, I get into, but when it comes to the heroes, for some reason I'm just so bored. I don't know why. I like episodes 5 and 6. I can get into those, but if it was episodes 2 or 4, I pick 2. I'm sorry for people who love the originals and the prequels. I would pick 2. I would pick episode 2 over episode 4. Episode 2 or 5, probably pick 5. Episode 2 or 6, that one's a little hard too, because episode 6 again kind of feels meandering like episode 2, and then you get to Ewoks and that gets boring, but I would probably pick 6 over 2 just because 6 is a little more clear cut as to what it's doing than episode 2. Episode 2 gets more lost. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, episode 2, least liked, still liked though, least liked amongst the prequels. Still love the movie, still like it, still will watch it whenever I feel like it. So yeah, this video has now gone longer than I wanted it to, as usual, and I've made it longer than the first video. Yay me! So that being said, that's the end of this video. Recording. It's going to be like one picture again. I don't know why I keep saying video. So, guys, tell me if you like the new audio quality. I hope you do, because I basically invested like a little less than $60 on getting a new microphone and pop filter. Okay, and then what did you think of episode 2? If you hated it, okay, why did you hate it? Explain to me. Don't yell at me for liking it. Just explain to me why you didn't like it, and I will either agree with you on certain points, or I will dispute why I take things you don't like or hate, and why I can either accept them, or why I just disagree with you on certain points. If you hate the film, fine. Just tell me why. Don't yell at me. Okay? If you did like the film, or if you found the film okay, what did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Just tell me below in the comment section that, YouTube, the mighty, has given unto all people, including the dickheads of the world, of which there are many on YouTube. So, that being said, I am done with this recording. And as a final note, I don't have an outro. And it makes me meander for a couple seconds. But no, I'm actually thinking about changing my YouTube name from Typer's Lesson to something else, which you can do. I think once every couple of months, or even once a year or something, or maybe you only have 2 tries or something. But I'm thinking of changing it only because Tiber Sluss was just something I picked from a bad joke me and a friend had a long time ago, and it was just I didn't expect this channel actually be of any popularity. So if you guys think I should change it, or should I, or whatnot, and whatever. If you guys think I should change it, just let me know. I at the end of the day, I'm probably just gonna decide whether I should or not on my own. But I'd like some people's opinions on it. That being said, that's the end of the recording, and you all will hear me ramble again soon on episode 3, my favorite prequel. All right, later.